Hello and welcome to the news. I am Sergio Brito. Coming up this afternoon, President Barrow to swear in newly appointed public service officials on Thursday. Students of the Gambia College expressed disappointment over government's decision to scrap a scholarship. And my guests today are officials from the Gambia Christian Council as they shared their position on the rejection of the 2020 draft constitution. But first, we'll begin with the newspapers. The Standard newspaper is reporting that schools will reopen next Wednesday. EU no longer funding ECOMIC, says the EU ambassador Attila Leos, and Kande accuses Barrow of breaking COVID-19 rules. Christian Council urges government to get unbiased professionals to revisit a draft constitution, and plans to resurrect a draft without CRC are unlawful, says the leader of the Gambia Moral Congress, Honorable Mai Ahmad Fati. Let's take a look at some of these stories in detail. Plans to resurrect a draft without CRC are unlawful. Former special advisor to President Adama Barrow has said the government's plan to appoint an independent body of stakeholders to review the draft constitution is unconstitutional and could spark massive political uncertainty. The Minister of Justice, Dauda Jallow, recently told an online media platform that the government is now planning to resurrect the document by appointing an independent body that will be tasked with the responsibility of ensuring there is common ground. Schools reopen next Wednesday, says the Education Minister. The Minister of Basic and Secondary Education yesterday announced that junior and senior schools will reopen throughout the country on Wednesday, 14th October 2020, while early child development and primary schools will reopen a week later. EU no longer funding economic forces in the country. The European ambassador in the Gambia, Attila Leos, has disclosed that the EU has since March stopped funding the West African troops stationed in the country. Attila Leos was quoted as saying the European Union entirely funded all the mandate of the economic forces from the beginning in 2017 until the end of March this year. So since April, we are not contributing into the mandate of the economic forces simply because ECOWAS headquarters has not approached the European Union with a funding request, he told the Standard newspaper. And of course, Mama Kande accuses Barrow of breaking COVID-19 rules. The Gambia Democratic Congress leader has accused President Adama Barrow of breaking the very regulations he put in place to bar public gatherings. Barrow spent the past few days laying project foundations in large gatherings across the country. Political opponents have jumped to the conclusion that the Gambian leader is taking advantage of the projects to cement his political grip. Government lifts bans on lumos. The Gambia government has announced the reopening of all lumo markets in the country. A statement issued by government spokesperson Ibrahima Sankara said, effective immediately, His Excellency President Barrow is pleased to declare all lumo markets throughout the jurisdiction of the Gambia open. Final story on the Standard newspaper, Christian Council urges government to get unbiased professionals to revisit 2020 draft constitution. The Gambia Christian Council has called on the government to institute a team of competent, objective, unbiased professionals from various interest groups across the country to review deadlocks in rejected draft constitution to find a win-win solution and a constitution that would unify and not divide the nation. The draft was sensationally rejected at its second reading in Parliament, with 23 lawmakers voting it down. That's it for the Standard newspaper. Let's take a look at what the point is saying. Most of the headlines are pretty much similar, but one there that is different. 13 backway smugglers arrested in joint operation. Let's take a look at that story. An operation headed by operatives of the State Intelligence Agency, SIS, in collaboration with the Illegal Migration Unit of Barrow Immigration, have arrested 13 backway smugglers, mainly boat captains, as the fight against the backway syndrome intensifies. The point has been reliably informed. The suspects, mainly Senegalese, are currently under custody as investigation into the matter continues. That's it for the newspapers. Let's go for a break and stay tuned. Welcome back. And now, His Excellency President Adama Barrow on Thursday will swear in the newly appointed officials at the State House. Midiwangom tells us more.
State House said on Wednesday that President Adama Barrow will swear in new public officials on Thursday. The president last week removed 2 ministers, Trade and Youth, and hired fresh hands. The Trade Ministry, however, remains unfilled after the president's choice, Bakari Jammeh, turned down the job. State House, however, said on Wednesday that the president will preside over the swearing-in of the new Youth and Sport Minister, 2 Supreme Court judges, President of the Court of Appeal, and the Judicial Secretary on Thursday. It's believed that the president will now be on the hunt for a new man to serve as Trade Minister.
Welcome back. For many years, students who have passed through the Gambia College did their studies tuition-free. Now, students at the college are expressing their disappointment after the government of the Gambia scrapped the scholarship program. More in this report by Jaka Sisejete.
The Gambia College is one of the country's biggest tertiary institutions. It is made up of 4 different schools: nursing, education, agriculture, and public health. With scholarship packages from the government, a lot of students from low-income families were given the opportunity to further their education after graduating from high school. But this is no longer the case at the institution.
Government scholarship grant being affected is really serious, because I believe that when I was coming in, I was paying, it was $7,000. And it was even difficult for me to pay the $7,000. So currently it's $12,000. And then I think I'm in the middle age, in the center where as I have a parent who is, my father have already passed away, but the mother is still here and he's hustling. And she's the only one helping me to pay my tuition fee. It's really difficult, because it was $7,000 and now it's $12,000. But luckily I am part of those who are paying $7,000. But the worry will be those people who have to pay $12,000 and then they are from a poor background. So absolutely, scholarship, it really affects us a lot.
It has really affected students, because when students heard of the scholarship, they do rush and search for the form. But at the end of the day, most of them are not considered. The donors that are in charge of sponsoring students are this MRC Holland, but for that of Ministry of Basic and Secondary Education, normally concentrated on the in-service students. So for that of the pre-service students are always disturbed. If they cannot pay it, then it means they have to engage into something different. Yeah, the in-service, these are students who did course at the college earlier, either PTC and later come for advanced diploma. And in fact, if they do the course before going in for advanced diploma, or if they want to have sponsor from the MOPSI, from Ministry of Basic and Secondary Education, you know, there are, how do I call it? There are conditions attached to it. So normally you will see students, you know, will even turn down the conditions because it's not favorable to them. So for that of the pre-service, these are fresh from grade 12, you know, to the Gambia College Trade. Yeah, the conditions that are normally attached onto this is normally they take you to regions that are very remote, and again you have to serve them for a specific period of time, which is not favorable to students at times, because all they want to do is, you know, to do their course, finish it earlier, so that they can at least go to the University of the Gambia to, you know, pursue their education.
Yeah, our ministry have written letters to the Minister of Basic and Secondary, and we have visited them, I think, once, discussing about the issues that are affecting students, as that is our main priority as student union. But still now, to no avail.
The students are calling on the government to come to their aid and help make their dreams of completing their courses at the college. Reporting for the Fatu Network News Review, Jaka CCJT.
TAF Africa Global presents the new Tulip Gardens. TAF Tulip Gardens is set to comprise service plots in sizes ranging from 220 to 570 meters square. Deposit as low as $83,600 is only an 18-month interest-free payment plan with only 20% deposit on the service plots. Please contact 376-2333 or 776-2333. Free.
Welcome back, and now I am joined by our guests from the Gambia Christian Council, Pastor Moses Sonko and Bige Jabang. Welcome to the Fatu Network News Review, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. It's always an honor and a pleasure.
Thank you. And now I will start with you, Pastor, because we've watched the press conference yesterday that the Gambia Christian Council held. And I would like to start my questioning right from the top, because before this draft document was presented to the Gambian people or before Parliament, the Constitutional Review Commission held public consultations with various groups. Now, what I read from the press briefing yesterday was that you've actually written to the relevant authorities and wrote a petition to the president, but from what you said, and I quote you verbatim, that the feedback that you sent to them fell on deaf ears. I want to know, was there any reaction, if at all, from these relevant authorities that you wrote to saying your plight?
Yeah, we went to definitely relevant authorities, starting from the Gambia, from the president down to the former Minister of Justice. We went to the CRC. I think we went there 2 times with the CRC. But when you look at the issues that were presented and and the final draft constitution, that's why we said it fell on deaf ears, because none of them, or just very few, and the few that were addressed were what you call the really non-relevant ones. The important ones, the ones that really meant a lot to the Christian communities, were ignored. That's why we said we felt like it fell on deaf ear, and we sent a petition to the president with about 7,000 signatures or more, and then
no response.
We didn't get any response.
So when you said the 2020 draft constitution does not sufficiently cover like the plight or the things that are more important to you, what are the exact provisions that you're talking about? Because if you look at it, Section 88 and Section 153 clearly states that neither Parliament nor the President can establish a state religion. So what are the provisions that you have an issue with?
Okay, I mean, if we start from the top, Section 10. The laws of the Gambia. The laws of the Gambia is not entrenched. For those who don't understand what it means to be entrenched, it's like you go into a house and you lock the door with a key. It means it's entrenched. Before you go there, you have to get the key from somebody, open it, and go do whatever you want to do. But it is not entrenched, which means you can change the laws of the Gambia without really going to a referendum. Any part of the constitution that is not entrenched can be changed at the level of Parliament. And the law of the Gambia is the bedrock of our nation. Why are we concerned about that? If you look at the fabric of the constitution, it reflects a lot of things. And there's one place I went and I made a mistake, a genuine mistake. You know, I said, I thank you for giving me the opportunity to talk about this religious document. And I said, oh no, sorry. The guys were like, it's not a religious document, it's national. I said, oh, it's true, but I said, but it looks more like a religious document. Now, the Section 10, Section 10 not been entrenched. The laws of the Gambia is the common law, the Sharia law, and the
Customary law.
Customary law. On the Sharia law is only the family law, and on the family law is only marriage, divorce, inheritance, and endowment that is covered. That's what that's what is under the laws of the Gambia. So now, because it's not entrenched, if in the future you want to add on that law, let's say now, you know, on Sharia you have family, you have finance and banking, and you also have the penal law. So if you want to change any of those, you don't need to get to the people, because it's not entrenched. There are certain areas of the constitution that are entrenched that does not really need to be entrenched. But this part is not entrenched. We believe, or let me say I believe, that because in the future, if you want to add any part of the law, they don't want to have the they don't want the people involved. But this is the law of the Gambia. When changing it, you have to involve the people. So this is not about just Christian. Changing the law of the Gambia is the Gambia doesn't belong to Christian, it belongs to all of us. If you are changing the law of the Gambia, it should go to a referendum and people should know. It is not entrenched for a purpose. That's why that's one of our issues. It should be entrenched.
So if you want to add something to it, go ahead.
Yes, to add further and additional points in terms of the concerns of the Christian community and why we are saying the religious rights of the Christian community is not fully protected by the draft constitution. Now, there is the argument that sufficient provisions have been made to ensure that the Gambia retains its secular nature, even though the term secular is not there. And therefore, like you said, Section 88 and 153 is often quoted, that now the National Assembly and the President cannot declare this a religious state. Right. All right? Whilst that is true, however, then when you go to the judiciary section, the judiciary section has been completely overhauled beyond recognition. If you compare the 1997 Constitution, the judiciary section, to the 2020 draft Constitution, and the first thing that you notice there, and that is what concerns us directly as the Christian community. Number one, Section 188 now states that any case that has to do with marriage, divorce, inheritance, endowment, which affects somebody who would be affected by Sharia. The Sharia courts now have original jurisdiction, which means that they have jurisdiction above common law. What that means, okay, that's the wording now. Whereas in the 1997 Constitution, the wording was that if the parties were Muslims, the condition was that all parties had to be Muslims, and if they consent, Muslims had the opportunity to consent in the 1997 Constitution. So it was very clear in that Constitution that Christians could never be subject to Sharia courts. However, in the 2020 Constitution, with that new wording, a Christian could be. And in fact, when you now start to look at the reasons behind it, it's clear that one of the reasons is so that Christians that are married to Muslims would eventually be subject to Sharia law. Because right now, the way the Constitution is worded, if one of the parties is a Christian, automatically it's common law, not Sharia law. So that is one of the concerns. But then add to it that under the judiciary section, what we have seen is the whole judiciary section, there is no mention that a common law judge must have common law competence. It's like me saying, for you to do what you do and to sit here, you need to have journalistic competence and experience. Now, that used to be in the 1997 Constitution. That's been completely removed. Instead, what we see is wherever Sharia is mentioned or Sharia judges are mentioned, it states that the judges must have Sharia law competence. So the question will be, why are we now completely erasing the requirement for common law competence, and instead we are now also having amplified or now brought Sharia courts at par with the common law? Okay, so what we need to take a step back. I think most people don't understand this. Currently, we have the Qadi law, yeah? And Sharia law is part of the Gambia Constitution. And we don't have a problem with that. And let's clarify this. Half of our families are Muslims. Half of our families are Christian. Gambia is one. So this is not a question of Christian, Muslim. The question now is, how do we continue to make sure we live in harmony, in unity, and in peace. Now, if the Constitution is now bringing a legal system that is a religious legal system and making it at par with the current legal system, common law, and then in certain areas even says that Sharia law has precedence, has original jurisdiction. And then on top of that, now says the competence that's required is Sharia competence, not common law competence. Then we need to say alarm bells, not just for us. So the last thing I need to say, we've talked about how it affects us, the Christians, but Muslims also need to know that this section 188 affects you more. And the question is how? Because Sharia high courts have been given what is called original jurisdiction. So for a Muslim, when it comes to marriage, when it comes to divorce, when it comes to inheritance, endowments, a Muslim will not be able to recourse or go to the common law. Sharia high court has original jurisdiction. What does that mean? We explain. For example, a Muslim father prepares his will and says, my children and my wife, this is how I want to divide my property. Yeah? Sharia will say, we have original jurisdiction. On the death of that individual, the will not be executed because Sharia will say, no, we have original jurisdiction. So irrespective how this man said he wanted his property to be divided, this is what the Sharia law says. This is just an example.
Thank you, Biggie. I will come back to you. Pastor, you know what they say, that there is no constitution in the world that fully protects the rights of religious groups, and that even includes Muslims. So how do you respond to people who say that you people might be demanding a little bit too much?
Really, I want to understand what they mean by too much. You know, asking for the laws of the Gambia to be entrenched, I don't think is too much. Asking to say that let the constitution be clear that this area applies only to certain group of, I don't think that is too much to ask for. You know, we are not looking at, if I was just looking out for myself, maybe in the next 10, 15 years, you know, I might be gone. But I'm looking out for my children. And you see, there's a saying that says experience is the best teacher, but it doesn't have to be ours. You know, if we look back in history, we look at Nigeria, we look at Mali, and we look at the way things were going. That's why I think we're so privileged that we have somebody in our midst who, at my age or younger, in Nigeria was fighting in the south or in the north, was fighting against what was going on right now here. And now he's an old man. And he said, I can see it happening again. It's like deja vu. So what we are pushing for right now, I don't think it's too much. The laws of the Gambia, we the Gambians have the right to know when it's been changed and why it's been changed. It's not a Christian issue. When you bring two legal systems at par with the common law, the common system and the common law system and the Sharia
and
system,
the religious law,
religious religious, when you bring them to in par, fine. Let it be clear that Christians that are not under that we are not part of it. In the 1997 Constitution, it's clear. In this one, they look at the test. 97 Constitution, the test was the people, the parties involved. Are they Christians or are they Muslims? And if they were Muslim, then. But now the test is not the parties. The test is the matter. What is the matter and who owns it? If the matter is marriage, if the matter is inheritance, if the matter is divorce, if the matter is endowment, the next question is who owns it? If one of the parties is a Muslim, then Sharia has original jurisdiction. So my sister, who is currently married to a Muslim, I'm Sonko, by the way. Half of my family were from Yomi Karantaba. So my sister, who is married to a Muslim right now, is going to be dragged into according to this new constitution. That's what we are saying. Sharia law, fine, it's been happening. It's not new, we know.
In fact,
we're just saying it's not too much. I think I don't think that is too much. If we have to go by our national anthem, let's justice guide our action towards the common good of everybody. You know.
To again reiterate the point, I think it should be of concern to us. We have been independent for more than 50 years. We've had a constitution that has governed our nation, which did not have two parallel legal systems. With two parallel legal systems, it means that you will now have certain citizens being governed by one type of law and other group of citizens by another type of law. All we can see is, in the end, there is going to be division. But not only that, like we're saying, Sharia is not new. It has been in our 1997 constitution, and that is why, in a current constitution, that is why, in some of the efforts to reach out to the CRC, Christians and Muslims, we worked together. We produced a document for the CRC where we said, okay, since the word secular has become so toxic in the nation, drop the word, yeah? Instead, let's spell out very clearly what we mean when we say secular. We also said, with regards to Sharia, we want you to clarify what we mean by Sharia. And we're saying Sharia, as has been practiced in the Gambia all these years, that's the Sharia we are talking about, not the Sharia that is being slowly and gradually imported, which is not tolerant. The Sharia that will tell you that you are not Muslim enough. And if that kind of Sharia is introduced, it's not only Christians that will suffer, Muslims will suffer, as is happening in Nigeria. In Nigeria, the killings is not just Christians. What I'm being told is more Muslims have been killed by Boko Haram than Christians. Why? Because according to Boko Haram,
those are just extremists, Biggie. They're just extremists.
Exactly. But that's what we're saying. And that's why he was saying that the professor who spoke to us about Nigeria, he said that this was the case 20 years ago. And they took it for granted. They also compromised, allowed secular to come out. Now, 20 years down the line, they're weeping and they're crying. Now, when you're saying they're extremists, when we went to government, and I will not name who, what they did tell us was that government is aware of the growing number of extremist groups in the country. They are aware. It's happening. We, the average Gambian, do not know, but it's creeping into the country slowly, slowly. So that's why we're saying, this is our country. Let all Gambians, we come together and let's determine what Gambia do we want and what Gambia will we create. Let's not allow Gambia to go down the path of Nigeria, either 10, 15, or 20 years from now. It will be our children who will suffer. And so what we're saying, 1997 Constitution, the Qadi courts were there. Fine, if you want to rename it Sharia, rename it Sharia. But do you need to amplify and expand the powers that you're giving those courts? Secondly, be clear. If you want Sharia, be clear that it applies only to Muslims. But I'm urging every Muslim, please, what we noticed in this campaign, that the Muslims haven't taken time to go and read the document. Your lawyers, go and ask your lawyers to go and read it and come and explain it to you. Let the lawyers tell you, how will this really affect you? Because it will affect the Muslims. And like we keep on saying, half of our family members are Muslims. If it affects you, it affects me. And we even have cases right now happening. And I'll cite you a case that is right now in the courts, where a Muslim man has passed away, married to a Christian woman. They built a home all these years. From nowhere, the sister of the Muslim man says that the wife is kafir because she's not a Muslim, and the children are kafir. So she has to inherit the husband. Now tell me, is that right? Tell me, is that just? And not only that, this is before Sharia high courts are introduced. What do you think will happen if Sharia high courts are introduced? And that is why we're saying, Gambia, let us wake up. everybody. We know Africans, we don't like to read. Now, we cannot say if you want to hide something from an African, put it in a book. No. Every Gambian, we have a civic responsibility and a civic right. Go and read what is in section 188. Then get your lawyers, your legal lawyers, who will be objective to tell you what could happen. You want to know what can happen to my daughter, what can happen to my wife, what can happen to my son under this constitution if it is to pass.
Now, Pastor, now that the 2020 draft document has been rejected, it seems we are still stuck with the 1997 constitution. How do you feel about that? What's your position on that?
For the Gambia, we always want something better. We always want something good. I could remember very clearly when they were talking about creating the CRC, Honorable Alifa Saleh said, we could go through the 97 constitution. Everything that is not good, we take it out. And the good things that we want, we put it in there. He said in less than 1 year, we can finish it and it's not going to cost us $1. That's what he said. It's not my word and it's in records. But we decided to go down the path of CRC 3 years later and $116 million is later. A document comes out that is controversial. So what I'm saying is certain things that should make the interest groups on there are many. The other day I was watching QTV and the diasporans were there. They also have their own list of issues. There are different groups with different issues. So it's going to be very difficult, like everybody is saying, to accommodate everybody. The issues of Christians is a lot. We are not asking for everything to be accommodated, but there are some key issues that has to be addressed because it's not about just today. So for me, how I feel, we've been governed by the 97 constitution. I hear some people saying, oh, the Gambia is going backwards since we've rejected the 2017. What have been governing us for the past 3 years? What have been governing us all these years? Is the same constitution that is still governing us. What we can do, if this constitution cannot be revised, we go back to, like Honorable Alifa Saleh said, go back to 97 constitution, take all those things that we feel is not right, and then redo it. Or if we want to continue with this 20, because you see what's going to happen, the danger is when you take certain things that benefit certain interest group and put certain things that benefit certain interest group. As you take this, you offend me. As you put this thing, you offend somebody. So it's going to be very difficult.
This is why not all can be catered for and not all can be satisfied.
I will give you one example right now. I am not political at all. One of the issues with on the executive side with this constitution is the term limit. And UDP, they are in favor of that. You take that out and UDP flips against the constitution. How is it going to pass? You give the executive what they ask for, give them the term limit, and another interest group is affected. So the same APRC people and all those that voted no, if they vote yes, all the UDP vote no, because they don't want that term limit. They want it to be there, and they want this term to be counted as the first term. So you see, to pass this 2020 constitution is going to be very difficult, because as you give somebody, you are affecting, you are offending somebody else. So if there's a way of passing it, let it be passed. But I think.
So let me ask a question. To me, I think whatever process you go for, it's not going to be about the process. Even if we say, this is now over, draft constitution 2020 is dead, let's go to the 1997 constitution. Yeah? Let's take out what is good, what is bad, and keep what is good. It's again the same process of consultation. It's going to be the same process of dialogue and negotiation. You're going to still have the same people with their same interests. Group A wants this, Group B wants this, Group C. So it's the same process, whether it's draft constitution 2020 or 1997 constitution. So I do think what we first and foremost need to do is a lessons learned. There's no point trying to fix something if you haven't taken time to understand what went wrong and why. So do a proper lessons learned. What is it that went wrong? So that whatever next steps we're going to go through, whether it's to revive 2020 or we look at the 1997, we do not repeat the same. Because like they said, it's only a fool that would do the same thing again and expect a different result. But after we do the lessons learned, the next thing is, this nation, I'm sorry to say it, we need to grow up. And when I say we need to grow up, we're going to have what I call mature, open, honest, frank, but objective conversations. It's going to be discuss and talk and dialogue. Discuss, talk, and dialogue until we get to a win-win. Yeah? And the only way that can happen is listen to each other. Number one. Two, after I have listened, what you call walk in the other person's shoes or empathize. You need to walk in my shoes. Understand why I am concerned about this point, that point. As long as you don't walk in my shoes, you will not see it from my lens. As long as I don't walk in your shoes, I can't see it from your lens. But by the time you say, oh, I understand where you are coming from, then we start to say, okay, since your problem is this, and this is the outcome you want, but you are saying we should go to Brikama, or let's say, I'm not very good with the roads. Let's say you are saying that we should go to Sanyang through Turntable, okay? Or your destination is Sanyang, okay? But in that process of dialogue, somebody will say, okay, we can still reach Sanyang, but instead of going through Turntable, let's go through Jabang. That's the purpose of open, honest, frank, mature conversations that walk in each other's shoes. We will collectively get to that destination that is better for the nation of the Gambia. As long as all of us, we are sincere that we want the greater good of the nation of the Gambia. For who? Our children. Because this constitution is not just for us, it's for the next generation. So if we have that as the end goal, I bet you, because we were able to do it in a small interfaith group. We were able to say, okay, it's secular. And it wasn't easy. Initially, everybody held onto their guns. Secular has to be in the constitution. Da, 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 da. But eventually said, hold on, this is not taking us anywhere. What do we mean by secular? We agreed what we meant by secular. And we finally said, this is even better. Now everybody will know that this and this is what we mean. You understand? So I believe we can get there. If only, like I said, one, we need to be first and foremost, frank, sincere. Yeah? Have the interest of Gambia, not self-interest, not political interest, not religious interest, not tribal interest. Put Gambia first. Then mature conversations. We're not going to be angry and fighting each other. No. Frank, objective discussions that will help to get to the root of issues and come up with win-win solutions.
Thank you very much, Bige. Now, Pastor, where do we go from here?
Well, I think it's like what Bige said, it's a frank and open conversation. And I think it's very important for Gambians to understand why Christians feel the way we feel. I'll give a quick backdrop very fast. Jammeh rose up years ago and said, Islamic State. We went over that hurdle. President Barrow came within the first year. Oh, I'm going to build 60 mosques. Got over that hurdle. And there are some small subliminal things that you see happening. Christian feast comes and go. Nobody says anything. And now you take a look at the draft constitution. You're like, okay, is this a religious document or is it a national document? So when we see all those things, it makes us very paranoid, and because of that, we have to be on our guard. So right now, we have to look at our national anthem, really, and if we follow it line by line, we will understand what we need to do. The fourth line says, for the Gambia, our homeland. It's ours, and whatever we do, it has to be for the Gambia. It doesn't have to be for any political party. It doesn't have to be for any individual. It doesn't have to be for anything. It's for our homeland. Everything that we do, it has to be for our homeland. One of the lines says, "Let's justice guide our action." Everything that we do in reference to the Gambia, it should be fair. It should be just. It should be honest. That's what our national anthem said. One of the last line, it said, we pledge our firm allegiance. And the question is, you pledge a firm allegiance to who and to what? The Gambia is a nation that believes and fear God. So the first thing that we pledge our firm allegiance above everything is to God.
All of us.
All of us, both Christians and Muslims. I mean, any Muslim that you ask, they tell you my first allegiance that I pledge is to God. And that's God's honest truth in this land of the Gambia. But the second thing that we pledge our firm allegiance, that's the issue. It should be to the nation, and it has to stop there. As soon as we start going down, it becomes, I'm talking about the way forward. We pledge our firm allegiance to God and God alone, and we pledge our firm allegiance to the nation. When we pledge our firm allegiance to the nation, we are able to work together for the Gambia. We're able to talk for the Gambia. We're able to sacrifice for the Gambia. But once you come down after nation, you say, I pledge a firm allegiance to my party. I've pledged a firm allegiance to
my tribe.
To tribe. You
or my religion.
Bringing issues and problems, because those that are good in math, you know, the more you start divide a fraction, the more the bigger the denominator, the less value the number becomes. So once we have more denominators, religion, country, tribe, this, that, it brings more problem, and the whole agenda becomes fragmented. So that's why the way forward, we have to pledge our firm allegiance to God and fear God and love God in everything that we do. We have to fear God and love God. Justice have to guide our action in everything that we do, including in preparing the Constitution.
Thank you very much, Pastor Sonko. Biggie, do you have any closing remarks before we go?
To add to what Pastor Moses said, I think now it's time to unify the nation. There's just too much rancor, too much division, too much infighting, politicking. Like he's saying, too many different groups with different interests, etc. And the question is, how can we go forward if we don't come together as one nation? So one of the ways, and this I'm making an appeal. I'm making an appeal to our leaders. I'm making an appeal to the President of the Gambia, President Adama Barrow, that it's time to unify the nation. It's time to call all Gambians. Let's come together. Let's work for our nation. Let's not work for the different groupings that we belong to. If not, self-interest will continue. We're calling also on party leaders. Party leaders will have to speak to their members. Let's rise above politics. Let's put our nation first for the sake of what our children and the generations to come. Like somebody said, history will judge us. History will judge our leaders. And the question will be, when the time came, did we unify the nation, or did we contribute to further dividing the nation? We can move forward, but we can only do so if we come together under one banner as one Gambian nation. Let's work through our issues, and we can. Let's have open conversations, respectful conversations. Let's get to the bottom of the issues. Let's walk in each other's shoes so that we can understand each other. And then let's together work to find win-win solutions.
Thank you very much, Abige Jabang and Pastor Moses Sonko from the Gambian Christian Council. Well, that's it for News Review today. Do join us tomorrow if you can. Thank you very much for watching, and bye for now. Thank you guys for coming.